Let's begin with the background. So the background, as you know, is after the death of Shlomo HaMelech. So there was a rebellion led by Yerovam against Shlomo HaMelech's successor, Rehoboam, who taxed the people heavily. And as you know, that resulted in a split that was almost approximately 250 years. 250 years. So you had the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom was dominated, was in general aimed at Vaša and dominated by very negative influences. Now we all know the story. They were invaded and exiled, the last 10 tribes. So this takes place some 50 plus years into that history. And the king of the time was Achas. Actually, before this, Achas, he married Jezebel, notorious Jezebel. She was a fanatical worship of the Baal. She, through her influence, the entire northern kingdom completely immersed in Avodah Zarah. It was the lowest point in our history. So at that time, Ovadia, who was a Navi, so a Ger, a Navi, he was Moishe Nefesh, and he hid 400 Bnei Nevi'im. So she persecuted the true Nevi'im. Bnei Nevi'im means the Talmidim of the Nevi'im. The Rambam says those who are on the path of Nevuah. He hid them and he provided for their needs and borrowed very heavily. Ovadia. Who did he borrow from? He actually borrowed from the next king, Yoram, the king, the son of Achaz. Then when Achaz died, so and Yoram is now king, so he needs money. That's a huge amount to sustain 400 Nevi'im out of years. And so Ovadia meanwhile dies. Ovadia dies, and now he's coming to the wife to claim the money. She doesn't have anything. So he's going to take her 2 children away as his slaves. That's the story. So the story, that's the introduction to the story. So the story begins, Ve'isha Achas when Shei Bnei Nevi'im. We'll read the Lashon HaPosuk in the Maamar just to tell you the end of the story, how it goes out, because the Maamar will explain Rabbi Chassidus, not the Avodah. So she cries out to Elisha. And Elisha took over after Eliyahu Navi, and Elisha asked the Eibishter that the Eibishter should give him Pishnayim of Eliyahu Navi's koiches. People should listen to him. Eliyahu was respected and loved and so on. And he was only his Talmud. So he was witness to Eliyahu going to Mila, famous vision. It wasn't vision, he saw it. Avi Rechav Yisrael, all the Basara Shemaima. And he asked the Eibishter for Pishnayim. And so the Tanakh goes on to say, the Takit, and this that he did, which were Moedik, this is one of them, and there's a second one with Chesa Mason, also after the Bashas Vayir. Upon him, so she asks him, she cries out to him, and she says, your servant died, this is Ovadia, and I have no money, and they come to take my children. So he says, what do you have left in the house? She says, nothing but Osach Shemen, a small cruse of oil. So he tells her, go out and borrow from the neighbors empty vessels, not a few, close the door behind you, and you pour from this. It was like this stationery and like a what's it called, a assembly line. It's all the diukim, the first explained every diuk. They didn't pour like this, but hold it stationary, and the kalim should go underneath. So finally, they were all full. The shemen stopped. So she went to ask him, what should I do now? What's the shayla? Just what's the question? First, I want to say he said to close the doors behind you. You know what you see? This is Ein Hara, the nest, the Mailim and Derech. English doesn't do these things as he has to. So he also didn't want anybody looking to see, to make accusations. What's happening? And we just talk about Ein Hara. Ein Hara works because people, why you? That causes a heavenly audit. I'm not worthy. We're taken away. So just Derech Agav, I mentioned many times that the eighth Ein Hara is the emes. I don't deserve it. I don't deserve it. Heavenly court case, and they argue, what does he say back? I don't deserve the Eibishter's good, case closed. That's the real answer to Ein Hara. I don't deserve my brachas, and what's the right that you don't? That you share them. If you claim title to them, then it's mine, then you're up for an audit, for God forbid. So you don't need anybody to know about it. They shouldn't trigger the Maila, unbeknownst to me, a whole trial. He tells her, therefore, to avoid the whole problem, he closed it. No one should see, no one should accuse. And for the first reason I said, the Chalinian of the Ness is not the Kavanah, the Chatchila, but only in this case. So the oil stops. So she doesn't ask him what I should do. So obviously, the whole point is you said you were destitute. You now have all these kalim full of oil. Obviously, you sell it. You sell it. It's obvious. So the Farishim say, Vayamod Hashemen means that the price of oil is going up. Vayamod, going up. Should I sell now or later was the question. It's all to sell now. Here we learn also a very important thing that from a Navi and Tzaddik, it's not just Ruchni's dik advice and so on, but even the Gashmi's business, which we all know well, the Rebbeim, etc. In fact, people go to the Rebbeim mostly for these questions, Panose and health. So that's Vayamod Hashemen. It's literally stood up, literally it stopped, or it price is going up. He tells it to sell it, and he tells her, and you and your children, you'll sell it, you'll pay the debt, and you'll live with the remainder. So all these diyukim will now be explained in the mind. So let's begin. I'll tell you of Chayisara, because of the common reasons, but one of them is the birth, not the birth. The Shaykhis to Chayisara was a ched. I'm sure the commentaries for some stuff. Okay, I'll tell you tomorrow.
It's after Vayera, no? Yeah. It's not Vayera. My son said
it's Vayera.
Right now.
It's Vayera, yeah. Vayera is the miraculous birth of Yitzchak.
Vayera
stories. Okay. It's Vayera, so not Chayisara. Okay, what page is it? Huh? Race and all base. Isha Achas min Shnei Bnei Neviim, and one woman or a certain woman. Tzaddik in the Weimer, Achas v'Isha. Maimon will say. So she was the wife of the Bnei from the Bnei Neviim. So Avadia is considered, even though he was a Navi, Bnei Neviim also to imply, as I mentioned before, he's the one that sustained. So can Elisha, she cried out to Elisha, as the Maimon goes, the pasuk goes on to say. We do a Maimon at Morazok al pasuk the ish al apostle. So it's known the Maimon of the Alter Rebbe. The Isha Acha, the Isha and the Neshama. Isha goes over the Neshama, of course, our relationship with Hashem, right? He is the Ish with the Isha. The Nikra Isha Achas, so a certain woman, but really more literal, is a woman of oneness. Isha Achas. Ki Achas Emavayik with the Neshama is one of the Eibishter. This is all talking with Maila before it comes down to the Guf. And then the pasuk goes on to say, Minashei Bnei Neviim, from the wives of the sons of the Neviim. What is this? Baruchni is Neviim, Meloshin, Nivsvasayim. The Navi is called Mitzvasayim. The articulation of the lips is a communicator. So what's the Inyan? Who? So why is the Neshama called Minashei Bnei Neviim? Who? Shemakablim Bechinas Dvar Havaya, because the Neshama there receives from and hears and experiences the word of the Eibishter. And the Neshama Keli Klikibul Lakabel Hasoges Vegila Likus, and Neshama is a Keli to receive Hasoges, understanding Vegila Likus. So that's the Pshat Minashei Bnei Neviim. that the neshama is receiving. Maybe the dig is also b'nei, a child receives from the parents. So b'nei novi, which is the meaning of dvar Hashem, Hashem's articulation, Hashem's words. So the neshama is a keli and is mekabel, asogis and gilelikus understanding and the gilelikus. That's the meaning of what of Isha Achas Menishei Bnei Nevi. Now, tzor ka'el Elisha, who's Elisha? Elisha is Elisha. My God, turn to me. Turn. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's the Eibishter. So now what's happening is of Isha Achas tzor ka'el Elisha. So the Neshama is crying out to the Eibishter. This is now the Neshama as it comes down to the good. Shaneshama tzekes HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Avdecha Ishi Meis. Your servant, my husband, died. In the story that it's of Adya. So what is the neshama? What's the lament? What's the cry of the neshama? The Ishi who Eish Yud. Ishi is fire with a Yud. What does this mean? It means that I used to have the Alva Kerish Be'esh, the love like the tongues or the flames of fire. Shahoya actually that I had the kolel to the desire, the longing. To be incorporated, will be bottled, to become nullified. Chinas Yud, to you, Eibush, to the level of Yud, which is Chachmi Law. Chachmi Law is the highest revelation of Elikus. And that experience is complete bittul. That's why it's in the Kudah, the Yud. The Alter says in Tanya, the Hago, and Perek Lamadei, that the Ein Sof is Shoire in Chachma Datzilus. So this has been Neshama's desire to be incorporated within the likus. So now when the neshama is crying out, Meis, it died. She'achshav ein li ava, so now the neshama came into a guf. I no longer have this love. What happens to me? I don't recognize myself anymore. Worse than that, it's even a biggie. It's not simply that the ava kerish beish is no longer. But further, the creditor is coming. That the creditor is coming to take my two children as his servants. What's the in Baruchli is, so Yosef called Menashe kinashan melikim. God made me forget my birth or my travails as a base of you. So that's the connection is forget. So what's the Indian? So Nefesh Bahamis is the creditor that makes me forget. That's a Nefesh Bahamis. Shemashkachas oisim b'likus that makes me forget about godliness. So it's one thing not to be passionate. Another thing just to don't even remember I'm married. Come home. Oh, I'm married. Where am I going? Back home. For the whole day. It's not even in his consciousness. So the first level is he's married, that's front and center. It's not passionate anymore. It's a platonic relationship. Worse than that is it's just not, I forget. It's not at the center of my life. And it gets even worse. So that's the Moishe is coming, the creditor. Just trying to think what's the shaykhis to the pasha the pshat, a creditor to forget. The creditor comes because you are acting like you forgot you have a loan.
You want your creditors to forget.
What?
You want your creditors to forget.
You want them to forget. Okay. Whatever, not sure. I don't know. We just started there. So the Nefesh Bahamis, because the Neshama is enclosed in the Nefesh Bahamis. Again, as we always say, the Neshama is mislabish Nefesh Bahamis. And the Neshama is mislabish in the Guf. The Guf is alive with the Nefesh Bahamis, which is alive, Nefesh Alikis. It's not like the phone, it's not alive. It's not alive. It's animated by the energy, but the neshama is invested in slavish, becomes one with the guf and one with the nefesh bahamis. Everything we do, everything is involved here. It's who's directing the story here. So the Nefesh Abamis Poshet is mislab, and the Neshama is mislabish, and it becomes completely fused with it. And in this hell and the hester of the Nefesh Abamis, I even forget about you altogether. Worse than that. So the Moishe, the credit to Nefesh Abamis, is coming to take my children. The Shnei Yelod, they said, what are the children? So the children are the love of the Eibush, the awe of the Eibush, to move up Tanya, like we learn in Tanya, Perigimel, Shema Midas, the Kolam B'Shem Teildois, the Midas are called offshoots of children, because they're produced by Seichel. Mikra Midas, which are the parents, Chacham and Bina, father and mother. So there's two children. Why? Because the Ikar Midas are out of the Yida. So now, this is already like the end. It's like this relationship can never recover. That the creditor has taken my love and my fear. It's got to go somewhere. Now it's lavodim, slaves to him, la'av zoris, so the yid zoris, to foreign loves and to foreign fears. So, I mean, it's obvious, but I'll say it. So in describing a marriage, is the following descent. First goes the passion, and then being married is just like not front and center, and then he gets entangled with somebody else. So l'chura, it would appear that this is no hope. There's no hope. So he says in the script back, it's the Moishe Vashem Shabbamis Mashkacha Seisim Alikos. So in addition to the fact, it's the beginning, the Moishe is coming. He wants me to forget about godliness. This is the second stage. The first stage is the passion is gone. I still remember. I define myself as a married person. I define myself as a yid who serves the Eibush. That's my definition. Not passionately, but that's who I am. So now that was the first thing to go. The second thing is not to forget even that. Levat. So worse than that, he wants levat. So noise of the Neshama is what makes you once you forget other course. But right to levat lachas v'shom sa'av yida, because he wants to levat my ava v'yira. It's not the same order, Damis. The first thing is the ava v'yira, and then forget. But he starts with the mata, forget. Could be the diak is that there's no passion. This doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Only ava kadish but it still exists. But he's saying levatel. Once you forget about the course, then you push it levatel to ava. It's not just the low burner. So that's the percent. So worse than that, he wants to take the ava of never shalikis. She yavod din of shabam slaves the never shabahamis. So the chudah, such a relationship is beyond salvation. I have to tell you, friends, that over the years, I can't tell you much this mind has helped me save marriages and turn them around. Mamish turned around based on this. It goes without saying, this is not the advice we're going to learn here. It's not just when the marriage is on the rocks. It's applicable to everybody and every level. But first he speaks the way it is, the Maila, in Avodah. So what happens? Elisha says to the Isha Achas, Ma yesh lach baboyes, what do you have in the house? What's the question? What do you have left that's innocent? That the Nebuch Shabamis hasn't taken and controlled and corrupted. Says the Neshama back to the Eibishter, I have nothing. Ki'im, osur, shemen, the cruise of oil, shalei nishad etzla shum dovan levat etzem, the kudas hanash. I'm a Yid, that I don't deny. That's all I got. I'm Jewish. The etzem, the kudas hanasham. I'm just applying this to the marriage. So it means that what's left is, I'm married. I acknowledge that. But you came to see me. That's all that's left. Married. There's no feelings. On the contrary, it's entangled elsewhere. But we do acknowledge we're married. That's all. I mean, to the Etzim Nekudas HaNeshama. The Yeshlema, the Rabbi adds, this is not Dal Rebbe says, this is all the Rebbe says now. The Yeshlema, the Shem and the Chachma, Shem goes in Chachma, like oil floats. It doesn't mix with all liquids. So too, Chachma is the highest of all the Keiches and Nefesh, but more than it doesn't mix. Doesn't mix the other Keiches and Nefesh because the Teva, the Etzim is Bittul, and all the other Keiches are Yeshes, so it doesn't mix. So Vasach Shem, and so what does it mean therefore the crucial world? It's Chachma Sheben Nefesh. That says in Tanya, this is the Nekudas HaYadus, the Chachma Sheben Nefesh, the Nekudas HaBittul, that's left. In the Vishavam Shlita alone, this the Vishavam doesn't have control. That's all. I'm a Yid. So Zok the Eibishter to the Neshama by Yomer Lechi Shali Loch Kelim Menachutz. Go borrow Kelim from outside. Kelim Reikim, empty Kelim, ultimately, not a few. So what's the Eitzah? Shetasik b'Torah u'b'mitzvahs. Be busy with Torah and mitzvahs, which are called Kelim. Why? Shem Kelim le'eravaya. They're the Kelim to the light of the Eibishter. Even though the Av Shatera mitzvah shesekas b'em Achas. Even though now the Torah mitzvahs are getting doing Kelim Reikim. You're not inspired, they're empty. B'li Av v'yira. There's no love, there's no all, there's no, obviously no tainug, there's no pleasure in it. It is a yoke, and it's empty, and it's just ma'aseh b'peil. But not a few. So what's the eitzah to the marriage? Behave like you're married. Just behave like a husband should. Now, can't be token once in a while, it's not going to work. It's going to be al tamiti. You bring flowers, you say the right word, it's completely forced. It's forced. And it's chitzonius and external. And what's the point? This has been nigud mamish to general therapy, which is to try and start with the feelings and no, never mind the feelings. It starts with ma'aseh b'peil, and then it goes on to say, fast forward, the feelings will come back. You and your children are with a prophet. It'll be a whole different level of love that you never experienced before. The way that it is for the neshama l'mayla, and for the couple in their early romantic days, the dating in the beginning of the marriage, as we'll see in the Maimon. Do not bring a few. That's the key here. It can't be. I tried it. It's got to be consistent. Consistent. Kabbalas oil. Ma'aseh b'peil. Yatzakt al kol kelim oil, and you'll pour in all of these kelim. What are you pouring into it? Why are you doing it? Because I'm a Yid. Not because of Ava the Yid, not because of Keiches Guluyim, not because of experience. Ja, derg me wordt betendelijk gezegd in Tanya in de Perek Chafei. Shekia Matera Umitzri Seah Tolibazeh. This is the whole, this whole 8 to the second from Perek Yutches. That what is the key to being consistently keeping Torah and mitzvahs? It is you should remember, when it comes to the crunch, he'll give up his life. And even Yisurim, even accept suffering. So, well, when the Tanya is to explain, that's what's at stake by every Aveda. And you don't have to give your life up for this, just resist it. So, what are you being ba'ayda? The person has to remember that he has the Nekudas HaChachma, he has the Neshama that is one with the Eibishter forever and will never tolerate and cannot be separated. And the Mesiras Nefesh Mitzad Etzem HaNeshama. That's what we're saying now. It's Mesiras Nefesh. He's not motivated. He doesn't want to do it. It's a complete drag. The promise is, if you'll do so consistently, it's empty. It's coming from outside. It's not being motivated from within. So why are you doing it? Because you're pouring your etzem and neshama, you're here. The promise is you and your children will live with the remainder. The story there, you'll sell the oil, you'll pay off your debts, but then you'll have a profit. Profit. What's the profit? That the Av and Yid will be even greater than it was before, like the Maila of Oyer that comes after from Chesh. That's one Pirush. Okay, the first Pirush is Kelim Rekim means that the Torah mitzvah that a person does are devoid of inspiration, nonetheless do it consistently, and the promise is feelings will grow, will emerge, and they'll be far greater than any feeling and inspiration you ever had before. Just to tell you, I don't know, some of the mind will explain it later, but because the feelings you had before was you enjoyed. Love with love. And now it's going to be an Ava love you. It's an etzem and neshama. That's an infinitely greater Ava. Ava that's born from Mesiras Nefesh, rather than how you fulfill me. That my privilege to serve you, that love is infinitely greater. And that's what this, when the neshama comes down the matas to learn this love. The neshama l'mayla is in love with God because it's rapturously, it's heaven, but ultimately it's about the self. It's not Mesiras Nefesh l'mayla. Here is where the real connection happens. Okay, Oit Pirush, mind only masbelech. Oit Pirush bekelim reikim al tamiti, empty vessels, not a few. She is burning harbe. So this is Hara 17. Tzarich Inksas. Rabbi says, interestingly, we need a little bit of explanation. The pasuk namar al tamiti, not a few. By my mishi is burning harbe. You should think a lot. So what's the shaila? The pasuk doesn't say bring a lot of kelim. It says don't bring a few. But the Maim expresses it in the chiyuv. Leaves it unanswered. Anyway, so what should a person be misbeinen? Eishu klireikon. He's a klireikon. He should be misbeinen in his matzav. He's an empty kele. Yiddish a pusta kele. When I was a kid growing up, that was the biggest insult. I didn't even hear it today. A pusta kele, empty vessel. The biggest put down possible. So a person should be misbeinen. There is an empty kele. Beli das b'mayach. There's no das in his head. When he has no love and no awe, no fear, he's empty. He's void. The mind is empty, the heart is empty. And he should be very embittered over his distance, and that's what's ma'id. So the first one is Maisa B'Pleil, Al Tamiti. The second eitzah is his bonus, not a Maisa B'Pleil. His bonus in his kelim, his matzav of kelim reiki. Rav Mesivta began Eden, like the statement of the Rosh Yeshiva in Gan Eden brought down in the Zohar, brought down in Tanya. A log, that fire doesn't catch. You splinter it, you break it, then it catches fire. Continues the Zohar, a body that the fire of the neshama doesn't take hold of. You got to break it, and then the fire will take hold of it. So this is the second oifen. His abundance. He say to him moreover, that this light this gilalikus that is going to be mamshech as a result of his abundance, that he is what a klireikon, an empty kele. Yesh le'yisin ala oir k'moshe misad atzma. This is a greater oir than the oir that is not elicited through this is bonus. Kiyisin, the mind will explain all of this. Kiyisin oir abba min ha'choshech, dafke again like oir that comes from choshech as opposed to ordinary oir. And chosh is opposed to Yosha alone later in the mind. When that's the conclusion, you and your children will live with the remainder at you, right? You, not describing, that's etzem nesham. And your children, and your children are the avin yir of every nesham. Tichya ben noisa will live with the remainder. The be noisa, remainder means addition. Ki yisin oir above nachoshet, like the yisin, the mile, the advantage of oir that comes dafka from choshet. Okay, so the summary is that there's two eitzes, to the lament of the neshama. First the passion goes, then comes forgetfulness, and then comes entanglement. So the first eitzah is behave like a yid, consistently. And then the Av and Yid will come, the second eitzah is, oh, good for being misburning in your matzah, with tremendous merirus. And that will be the kela to be mamshich the oil from the etzam and the shama, and Av of the Yid, which will be far beyond the Av of the Yid that the neshama had l'mayim. Right, so the mind is going to explain the proteus, these two in Yonim.